Discover the miraculous transformations and divine blessings revealed in the sacred book of Judges. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the clouds darkened over the land of Canaan, casting long shadows over the hearts of the Israelites. They had turned from the commands of Yahweh, slipping into a relentless cycle of despair and disobedience. Under the heavy hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, they endured oppressive servitude, with cries for deliverance echoing through the valleys and hilltops. Yet amidst the gloom, one woman, Deborah, a prophetess and judge of remarkable wisdom, resided beneath the palm tree in the hill country of Ephraim, offering guidance and judgment to her people. It was in the stillness of desperation that Deborah felt a stirring, a holy compulsion from the God of Israel. He called upon her to rise and lead his people back to faithfulness. She understood the formidable enemy that loomed above, a mighty commander, Sisera, ruling from iron chariots, feared by all. With her heart set on divine purpose, she sought out Barak, a man of valor living in Kadesh of Naphtali. Yet, Barak's heart was gripped with fear. "Gather your men," she proclaimed boldly. "For Yahweh commands you to lead an army against Sisera. He has given them into your hand." But Barak hesitated, doubt shadowing his face. "If you will go with me, I will go, but if you will not go with me, I will not go." In his plea, the weight of uncertainty draped over him like a heavy cloak. Understanding his fear, Deborah acquiesced to accompany him, yet delivered a solemn word: "The glory will not be yours, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman." As the day of battle approached, an air of tension hung over the Israelites like a fog. They gathered in trembling unity, casting fearful glances at the iron chariots that waited. Yet divine intervention was already at play. As Sisera and his forces marched forth, the Lord sent confusion among their ranks, throwing the soldiers into disarray. The battle raged fiercely, the shouts of the men swallowed by the thunderous roar of the heavens. Deborah stood beside Barak, emboldening him with her presence. He rallied the troops, a clarion call of strength and unity piercing the fear that had gripped them. Yet in the shadows, another thread of fate began to weave itself. A woman named Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, silently observed, her heart torn between allegiances. As Sisera's army crumbled before the might of divine intervention, their commander fled, seeking refuge in Jael's welcoming tent. There, with a heart attuned to the whispers of the God of Israel, Jael made a choice that would seal her fate and deliverance for her people. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the sun dipped below the horizon, enveloped by the murky tension of unfulfilled destinies, the fate of Israel and its enemies hung in the balance. Would Yahweh's promise of deliverance ring true? Amidst the clashing of swords and the cries of battle, the hearts of the faithful yearned for God's resolution, their eyes straining against the darkness, waiting for the dawn of divine blessing to break upon them. The story of courage lay suspended in time, a holy heartbeat echoing through the ages, holding its breath for what God would do next. As the dust of the battleground settled and the cries of the fallen faded into sorrowful whispers, Sisera stumbled into the tent of Jael, desperate for refuge. Unbeknownst to him, the woman who welcomed him would soon become the instrument of God's judgment. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and determination, for she had heard the whispers of the Israelites' God and knew the weight of the choice before her. "Turn aside, my Lord, turn aside to me," she beckoned, drawing him inside. Sisera, weary and fearful, entered the tent, unaware of the divine purpose coursing through Jael's veins. She covered him with a rug, providing the illusion of safety. "Give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty," he implored, the exhaustion of battle weighing heavily upon him. Jael hastened to obey. But as she poured the water, she filled her heart with resolve. Instead of water, she offered him milk, a comforting drink that would lull him into a deeper sleep. "Stand at the door of the tent," he instructed, "and if any man comes and asks you, 'Is there any man here?' Say, no. With each word, Jael felt the divine hand guiding her thoughts. The weight of their encounter pressed heavily upon her spirit, and she knew the time for action had come. As Sisera's eyes grew heavy, she took a tent peg and a hammer in her hands. Inspired by the Lord, she approached him as he lay in slumber, unguarded and vulnerable. In that fateful moment, Jael drove the tent peg through Sisera's temple, anchoring him to the earth. As she withdrew, a solemn silence fell over the tent, a silence that echoed with the finality of judgment. The commander of the elated army had been undone by the very silence of the woman whose hands had crafted his doom. Meanwhile, Barak, unaware of the fate that had befallen Sisera, pursued the retreating enemy. His heart raced as he sought reports of the battle. Would they indeed defeat the mighty Sisera? As he approached Jael's tent, she emerged to meet him, her face radiating a mix of triumph and relief. "Come, and I will show you the man whom you seek," she declared, her voice a clear revelation of what had just transpired. As Barak entered the tent, he saw Sisera sprawled lifeless upon the ground. A wave of awe washed over him as he comprehended God's deliverance through the hand of a woman. "Blessed be the Lord God of Israel," he proclaimed, reverent in gratitude for the divine plan that had unfolded before their eyes. The news of the victory spread like wildfire among the Israelites, igniting their spirits and strengthening their resolve. Finally, after years of oppression, the people began to sing the song of deliverance, praising Yahweh for the triumph he had wrought through his chosen vessels. The stars fought from heaven, the courses fought against Sisera, they sang, their voices rising in unison as they celebrated the faithfulness of their God. In the heart of the land, the echoes of their song resonated with the promise of restoration, heralding a new chapter for Israel. Yet even in the jubilant celebration, a solemn question lingered. In the hearts of the people stirred an understanding that this victory was not merely a singular event, but part of a grander design. What lay ahead for Israel? The dawn of freedom was upon them, but the winds of God's sovereignty were still to unfold. Let the years of oppression be remembered. They called, "For the Lord who delivered us will not forsake us again." Unbeknownst to them, a greater turbulence was brewing, preparing to reveal yet another layer of God's sovereign plan. And thus, as their voices echoed, the soil of Canaan, once soaked with the tears of anguish, now cradled the seeds of hope. But what further trials awaited the people chosen by the Almighty? And it came to pass, on that day, that Deborah, the prophetess and judge of Israel, rose in the midst of the people, her face radiant with the light of divine inspiration. "Sing, O people of Israel," she called, her voice like a clear trumpet in the morning air, "for the Lord has delivered us from our foes. Lift your hearts in praise to him, for he has wrought great wonders through his servant Jael." A great assembly gathered, captivated by her words, and as Deborah recounted the tale of triumph, the hearts of the Israelites soared like eagles. "Yahweh," she proclaimed, "has arisen to drive back the darkness that has beset us, and Sisera has fallen by the hand of a woman, that his glory may shine forth among the nations." From the valleys to the hills, news of their freedom spread. The Israelite tribes rallied, bringing their offerings and their praise to the Lord, their hearts united in the joy of salvation. Yet over the jubilance, a shadow of contemplation settled upon Deborah, for the winds of time carried whispers of trials yet to come. She turned her gaze toward the heavens, seeking the counsel of the Lord, when a word of prophecy stirred in her soul. "This victory is but a breath of the promises yet unfurled," she pronounced solemnly. "For our land is still marked by the memories of despair, and we must not grow complacent. The Lord, in his mercy, shall lead us forth, but the path is beset with challenges that will test our faith." Barak, surrounded by his warriors, stood among the throng, filled with resolve yet troubled by the implications of Deborah's words. "What shall we do, O prophetess? For we have tasted the sweetness of victory, but can we endure what comes next?" Deborah laid her hand upon Barak's shoulder, her eyes piercing him with a prophetic insight. "The Lord requires our steadfastness. In the days to come, we shall face a greater foe, a remnant of oppression that seeks to rise again. Therefore, prepare yourselves, for the battle is not yet won, and our faith must be more than a fleeting song of praise." As she spoke, the children of Israel gathered closer, their hearts beating in unity. The enormity of their deliverance weighed upon them, yet the forewarning of further trials lightened their spirits, drawing them deeper into the purpose of their calling. Let the strength of our unity be a bulwark, Deborah urged. For the Lord has not only delivered us from the hands of Sisera but has set us on a course to fulfill his covenant promises. Guard your hearts and keep your swords sharp, for the coming days will reveal whether we shall be a beacon of hope or a whisper of despair. Thus, the people began to prepare, their hearts stirred with holy anticipation. Clad in armor, they rallied, seeking the wisdom of their judge. Yet as the days rolled on, a dark shadow crept across the horizon, marking the gathering forces of a king whose ambition threatened the fragile peace. Yet even now, God's sovereign purpose lingered in the air, and the people wondered, what would the Lord do next? Could it be that this trial unfolds for our greater good? For they had seen his hand at work, and they waited, eyes turned toward the hills where the enemy might approach. That in the quiet moments of prayer, deep inside their hearts, a new question arose: what marvels shall the Lord show us in the days ahead? On the cusp of what could be a renewed tempest, they sought the face of the Almighty, knowing that the answers were veiled and his plan unfolded like the petals of a flower yet to bloom. And it came to pass that as the sun began to set upon the mountains of Tabor, casting long shadows over the land, the heart of Deborah was heavy with a sense of impending struggle. The people of Israel, though rejoicing and giving thanks, were blissfully unaware of the depths of the turmoil that stirred just beyond their fields. Gather the leaders of our tribes, she said, her voice firm yet filled with the weight of divine urgency. We must discern the mind of the Lord, for he is yet to reveal his plans through this time of peace. And so, the elders came forth, the air imbued with a mix of expectancy and dread. Their faces were wrought with the lines of experience, their eyes searching for a glimpse of what the Almighty would command. What is it that the Lord speaks, Deborah? They inquired earnestly, shadows flickering in the light of the torches they held high. Deborah summoned them closer, for she feared the whispers of the Spirit. The Lord has shown me a vision of a storm on the horizon, vast and fierce. Jabin, the king of Canaan, stirs in his discontent, raising an army to reclaim his dominion over us. We must prepare our hearts and our hands, lest we fall into the snare of complacency. Barak, still emboldened from their recent victory, rose to his feet, his voice steady. Thus, shall we take up arms, and gather our men to stand against Jabin? Can the might of his numbers intimidate those whom the Lord has deemed victorious? A murmur rose amongst the elders, some filled with confidence, others with trepidation at the news. Deborah nodded, indeed, but take heed, this battle will not be won by mere strength. We must call upon the Lord, seeking his guidance. It is his hand that shall lead us forth. Then, with fervent prayer, they lifted their voices unto Yahweh, seeking clarity as the winds whispered through the trees. On the morrow, they would rally the tribes of Israel. Preparations were to be made not only for battle but for spiritual endurance. As twilight fell, Deborah withdrew from the assembly, wandering into the cool embrace of the night. Alone among the stars, she poured out her soul, beseeching the Lord for a sign. O God of Israel, she entreated, may your purposes be made clear to me, for the strength of our arm is nothing without your guidance. In that moment of longing, the sky bore witness. A brilliant light erupted, illuminating the heavens and casting shadows upon the earth. The presence of the Lord encircled her, and a voice like thunder spoke, Fear not, Deborah, for I have chosen a path for my people. Set Barak before the multitude and proclaim my word. For through him, I shall deliver you once again. Steeling herself, Deborah returned to the assembly, her heart alight with resolute confidence. Hear me, O Israel. The Lord has decreed that we shall go against Jabin and his army. Barak is chosen to lead us forth, let all who are willing join in his call for battle. The tension mounted as families clasped hands, their spirits united. We shall be vigilant, they declared in unison, their lineage woven through the tapestry of faith. For none can thwart the plans of the Almighty. As preparation took root, Barak lifted his sword, declaring, We shall not shrink back from this challenge, for the Lord is our refuge and strength. The enemy may come like a flood, but the Spirit of the Lord shall raise a standard against him. And as the people stirred with holy fervor, Deborah's heart beat within her, God's promise had taken form, and a new chapter of victory and testing lay ahead. Yet in the recesses of her spirit, a question lingered, forged in faith: what might the Lord reveal as we venture forth into this tumult? For in every trial beckons the fulfillment of his grand design, leaving all to wonder what is the true measure of his sovereign will. And it came to pass that as dawn broke over the hills of Tabor, illuminating the land with golden rays, the tribes of Israel gathered, a multitude beset with purpose. Deborah stood amidst them, her countenance radiant with divine assurance. "Prepare your hearts," she proclaimed, voice rising above the throng. "We march not alone, the Lord is with us." Barak stood beside her, emboldened and ready, rallying the warriors of Naphtali and Zebulun. "Brothers and sisters of Israel," he called with a firm voice, "we are called to rise as one. The Canaanites shall not know the might of their cruel king while we harness the strength of our God." From the crowd, the shouts of support resonated as men unfastened their swords and women lifted their banners high, a colorful display of fidelity to the Almighty. As they readied themselves for battle, Deborah sought the Lord once more, seeking afresh the wisdom that had illuminated her heart. "O God of the hosts," she cried in fervor, "grant us your favor this day. Go before us, and let your fear descend upon our enemies." Then the Spirit moved upon her, and she turned to Barak with a word from on high. "Go upon the heights of Mount Tabor. The hand of the Lord shall guide us. For he hath said, I will draw out Sisera, the captain of Jabin's host, and deliver him into thy hand." With unyielding faith, Barak gathered the commanders and led them up the slopes, knowing that their battle would be not merely against flesh and blood, but against the forces of wickedness that sought dominion over the land. As they took their positions, the sound of chariots echoed in the distance, a foreboding sign of Sisera's approach. The tremors of fear coursed through the hearts of the warriors, yet Deborah, sensing their uncertainty, inspired them with promises of the Lord's protection. "We face not just an army, but the very heart of our oppressor," she encouraged. "Yet trust in the Lord will shield us. For he shall fight for us, and we shall prevail." At command, Barak descended from the mountain, the warriors followed, courageous and fiercely resolute. The clash of swords and the rumbling of chariot wheels met them, fierce and unyielding. As the battle raged, Deborah stood tall upon the heights, her heart lifted in prayer. Then, behold! A sudden tempest broke forth, as if the heavens themselves opened to aid Israel's stride. Hail fell like stones, and a great wind stirred the ground beneath Sisera's chariots, throwing them into disarray. In that moment of divine intervention, Sisera's army faltered and turned, confusion seized their hearts, and they fled before the might of Israel. "See, now, how the Lord delivers!" Deborah exulted, her voice ringing with triumph. "For we are the recipients of his covenant love." As the sun dipped low in the sky, the battlegrounds were strewn with the remnants of Jabin's forces, and victory belonged to Israel. Yet even amidst the rejoicing, Deborah felt the weight of another truth unfold within her: what greater wonders lie ahead through our obedience to his call? What other celestial truths does God desire to reveal in this journey? For victory, she realized, was not merely in the defeat of their oppressors but in the deeper understanding of his nature and his unwavering commitment to his people. As her heart pulsated with hope and expectation, she dared to ponder what lay in the chapters yet unwritten. Indeed, the paths of the Lord are profound and unfathomable, and all would witness the unfolding of his sovereign will. And it came to pass, on the morrow of their victory, that the songs of joy echoed through the valleys of Israel, for the people rejoiced in the deliverance that the Lord had wrought. They gathered in clusters, around fires flickering with sacred flame, their hearts ablaze with praise. "Let us recount the deeds of valor," they proclaimed, and thus the songs of Deborah and Barak were sung throughout the camps, celebrating the hand of God that had laid low Sisera. In that sacred moment, Deborah arose, her voice resonating through the throng. "O Israel, sing unto the Lord. For he hath trodden down the powerful and lifted the humble. Sing praises unto him, for he hath fought for us." And as her words lifted toward the heavens, the hearts of the people were stirred, and they clapped their hands and shouted praises to the God of Israel. Meanwhile, Barak, weary yet filled with a holy fervor, called the men together. Brothers, the triumph we have seen is not merely for our comfort but a witness to the nations. We must remain vigilant, lest the darkness of oppression return. The Lord our God has granted us this land, and we are stewards of his promise. But lo, as this wisdom took root among them, a report came from the plains of the Canaanites. Word spread like wildfire that Jabin, king of Canaan, had fled, and that Sisera, his captain, had not been found. Let us pursue. Barak declared, and the warriors sharpened their swords and readied their spirits, for the conflict was not yet ended. As they set forth upon the path where their enemy had fled, Deborah, filled with the Spirit, called out, "Fear not. The Lord has delivered these lands into our hands, and he shall continue to lead us. We pursue not just for vengeance, but to fully reclaim what has been lost to us." And so they advanced, an army marching with the heart of the Almighty. They journeyed through the heart of the land, and they gathered the spoils even as they searched for Sisera. Then, in the tent of Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite, events unfolded that none could foresee. Sisera, weary from battle and fearful of pursuit, sought refuge. "Give me water," he pleaded, "for I am faint and exiled from my people." Jael, seeing the promised opportunity, gave him milk, covering him with a blanket. "Lie here and take your rest," she whispered with cunning. As Sisera slipped into slumber, the Lord whispered to Jael, as it was in his great plan. In the shadows, she took a tent peg and a hammer, fortifying her resolve. With the strength of the Most High, she approached him in silence, and struck the peg through his temple, thus delivering Israel from the grasp of Sisera, as the Lord had foretold through Deborah. And it came to pass, when Barak arrived seeking Sisera's body, that Jael presented the trophy of victory, saying, "Come, see the man whom you seek." Through that act of valor, delivered by a lone woman, the Lord demonstrated his divine wisdom, for his ways are higher than ours, and his plans transcend all understanding. Barak's heart swelled with a mixture of awe and gratitude as he beheld the work of God. "Blessed among women is Jael," he declared. The tales of these mighty deeds would echo across generations, establishing a new chapter in Israel's history, a reminder that through faithful hearts and willing hands, God's sovereign plan could manifest in the most unexpected of moments. Yet, in the depths of Deborah's spirit, a new question arose, a divine mystery, saturating her thoughts. What other women of faith lie hidden in the pages of history awaiting their calls to action? What other wonders does the Lord desire to reveal through their obedience? Thus, the story continued, awaiting further unfolding of his perfect will. And it came to pass, after the victory over Sisera and the praises sung to the Lord, that Deborah, the prophetess, and Barak journeyed back unto the people of Israel. They called the assembly together, congregating in the valley below the Mount Tabor, eager to recount the mercies of the Lord. In the midst of them, Deborah spoke with authority and vigor, saying, "Hear, O Israel! The Lord has delivered us with a mighty hand. Not only did he protect us against our enemies, but he hath also poured out blessings upon us. Therefore, let us establish a covenant with our God, renewing our vows to serve him and to walk in his statutes." The voices of the people rose like the sound of many waters, proclaiming, "As the Lord liveth, we will serve him. He is our sanctuary and our stronghold." Their hearts united and their spirits intertwined as they renewed their commitment to follow the ways of the Almighty. But in those days of rejoicing, a shadow lingered. The Canaanite king Jabin, though driven from the field, plotted in secret against Israel. He stirred the hearts of the surrounding nations, seeking alliances against the people of God. Thus, dread began to take root again among the tribes of Israel, for whispers of treachery and armed conflict drifted upon the winds like a dark cloud. Deborah, perceiving the stirring of unrest, ascended to the heights of her faith and sought the face of God in prayer. In her heart, the Lord spoke, "Fear not, my daughter. I shall raise a deliverer among you, one who will stand firm against the tide of oppression and restore peace to my people." As the dawn broke, the Lord revealed unto Deborah a vision of a warrior, strong in spirit, who would lead the men of Israel into battle against Jabin. "Call upon him," the Lord commanded, "for he shall be my instrument of salvation." Thus, Deborah sent forth a messenger, and summoned Gideon, son of Joash, of the tribe of Manasseh. Upon his arrival, darkness shone in his eyes, but the spark of divine purpose lay hidden within his heart. "I am but a servant of the Lord, unworthy to lead such a great burden," he protested, trembling. "Behold," Deborah replied, her voice firm yet soothing, "the Lord has chosen you for this hour. As it is written, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord of hosts." Zechariah 4 verse 6. "You shall lead the people and deliver them from the hand of Canaan." With trepidation, yet ignited by the call of God, Gideon accepted. "If this is truly of the Lord," he said, "then grant me a sign that I may know your presence is with me." And Deborah, filled with the Spirit, promised, "You shall see the glory of the Lord revealed. He shall confirm his word, and your faith shall be the foundation upon which he builds his victory." So Gideon gathered the men of Israel, and as he called them forth, the Lord began to stir their hearts, igniting a yearning to stand against the oppression of Jabin. As they assembled, the tribes looked upon one another, fear turned to resolve, and thus a new chapter unfolded in the annals of Israel's history. Yet in the stillness of the night, unknown to them, darkness conspired, and the faith of the people would soon be tested in ways they could not foresee. For the Lord's call beckoned not just one, but many to rise in obedience, and with every challenge, his divine purpose would weave a tapestry of transformation. What awaited them in the shadow of the mountains remained a mystery, but God's sovereign will was unfurling, and his glory was about to be revealed. Then Gideon, driven by the call of God and bolstered by the words of Deborah, assembled the men of Israel at the foot of Mount Gilead. The shouts of the brave reverberated against the hills, and as the sun arose with glowing hues, their faces shone with hope and fear intertwined. "For the Lord our God goes before us," Gideon declared, rousing their spirits, "and he shall deliver us from the hands of those who seek our ruin." As the multitude arose in response to the voice of their leader, their hearts grew emboldened, yet an unsettling shadow lingered over the camp. Gideon, perceiving the anxiety of the men, sought a word from the Lord, knowing that victory did not come by their own strength but by divine intervention. Kneeling upon the earth, he prayed, "O Lord, if indeed thou art with us, show me a sign, I beseech thee. Let the fleece upon the ground be wet with dew while all the earth remains dry." And it came to pass that the Lord honored Gideon's request, for overnight the fleece was soaked with dew, while the ground surrounding it remained parched and barren. Gideon awoke to the miracle, and a spark of faith ignited within him. Yet still, he sought further confirmation, pleading, "Let it be on this account alone, this time let the fleece remain dry, while the dew covers the ground." The Lord, in his mercy, granted Gideon's plea, and lo, the fleece was dry upon the morrow, but the dew fell as a soothing balm upon the bare earth. Upon witnessing these signs, Gideon's heart swelled with holy assurance, and he rose to guide his people into the battle appointed for the deliverance of Israel. Yet the Lord spoke unto Gideon again, saying, "The people are too many for me to deliver Midian into their hand, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, Mine own hand hath saved me." Therefore, the Lord commanded Gideon to proclaim unto the people, "Whoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead." With heavy hearts, 22,000 men turned back, leaving only 10,000 to face the enemy. But the Lord was not yet satisfied, for he spoke once more, "The people are still too many, take them down to the water and I will test them for you." Gideon brought the men to the brook, where they drank. The Lord instructed, "Everyone who laps the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, shall go with you, and everyone who boweth down upon his knees to drink shall be set apart." Thus, it came to pass that 300 men lapped the water, while the rest, weary and discouraged, were sent back to their homes. With a mere 300 chosen ones, Gideon stood poised against a host of Midianites that stretched as the sands of the sea. As darkness enveloped the camp, the Lord commanded Gideon, "Arise, go down to the host, for I have delivered it into thy hand." With a heart beating to the rhythm of God's promise, Gideon descended into the valley, knowing that victory was rooted in the faithfulness of the Lord. Yet within the enemy's camp, the hand of God stirred. A soldier spoke to his companion, recounting a dream of a barley cake tumbling into the Midianite camp and overturning their tents. "This is nothing less than Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. The soldier proclaimed, "God has delivered us into his hand." Thus, at the appointed hour, Gideon and his 300 men prepared to launch their assault, armed with the unseen weapons of faith and divine purpose. With horns lifted high and lights concealed in vessels, they encircled the camp, awaiting the command that would scatter the shadows of darkness. But even now, unseen forces moved in the hearts of men, and the battle that loomed would soon reveal that God's sovereign plan was much grander than they could ever imagine. What final act of deliverance awaited Israel was yet unknown, but the tapestry of God's glory began to unravel, entwining the fates of many in a divine orchestration of purpose. And it came to pass, as the night deepened, that Gideon, filled with holy expectancy, approached his men. They gathered around him, their hearts throbbing with anticipation, for the time of their deliverance had come. The moon cast its silver light upon the rugged terrain, illuminating the faces of the brave and weary. "Now let us prepare ourselves," Gideon spoke with resolute faith. "For the God of Israel is with us, he has stirred fear into the hearts of our enemies. According to the command of the Lord, we shall not rely on swords or shields, but upon the trumpet of the Lord and his Spirit." With great purpose, Gideon distributed to each man a trumpet and a jar, instructing them, "At my signal, we shall blow the trumpets and shout, for the Lord and for Gideon." The men, stirred by the fervor in Gideon's voice, nodded in agreement, their spirits united in the anticipation of the victory that God would bring. As the hour approached, Gideon called upon the Lord in silent prayer, seeking the assurance of his presence. "O Lord, may our hearts be bold, and may your name be glorified through our hands." Then, in the stillness of night, Gideon led his men to the periphery of the Midianite camp. The wind whispered through the valley, carrying with it the murmurs of the enemy, unaware of the impending doom that lay just beyond their sight. The 300 men positioned themselves around the tents, each one waiting for the signal. At once, Gideon raised his hand, and as it fell, the sound of trumpets shattered the stillness. "For the Lord and for Gideon," rang out in unison from their lips, a declaration of faith and the unfurling of God's might. The air was filled with the echoing blasts of the horns, a divine symphony that pierced the night. In that moment, the Lord caused confusion to fall upon the Midianites. They awoke in terror, thinking perhaps they had been surrounded by a great multitude. They stumbled in darkness, striking one another, their cries echoing into the heavens. The sound of their panic was as thunder rolling across the hills. Gideon watched with awe as the mighty hand of God worked wonders before him. Victory unfolded not by sword or spear, but by the obedience and faithfulness of his chosen. As fear gripped their hearts, the Midianites began to flee, running into the shadows of the night, casting aside their weapons in desperation. The men of Gideon shouted louder, pursuing the enemy with the fervor of the divine promise. With every step, faith surged within them, fueled by the understanding that it was not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit of God that they triumphed. Then, word reached the surrounding tribes of Israel, the deliverance was at hand. Those who had remained, those who had watched in anxious silence, now rallied together to join the chase. "Come with us. The Lord has delivered the Midianites into our hands." They called out, drawing strength from the unified pursuit of righteousness, and it was during this pursuit that Gideon's heart, swelling with both fear and faith, pondered the sovereign plan of God. The deliverance was glorious, yet he could not help but marvel what other mysteries lay ahead, the choices to be made and the path to follow. In the midst of their victory, a question arose within him: what would become of the land once freed from the oppression of Midian? And as Gideon thought upon these matters, he knew that the sovereign hand of God would continue to weave a tapestry of purpose that neither he nor Israel could entirely foresee. For it was a revelation yet to unfold, a destiny orchestrated by the Lord, whose ways were higher than man's. The true restoration of Israel was not merely in the defeat of Midian but in the returning of their hearts to him. And thus, the journey of faith was about to reveal deeper truths, for the time had not yet come for the fullness of his promise to be made known. And it came to pass, after the great victory over the Midianites, that the hearts of the people of Israel were filled with awe and reverence for their God. The sun rose upon a land that had tasted renewed freedom, and from every corner of the tribes, voices rang out in joyful celebration. "Let us march forth," they cried, "for the Lord has shown his hand and delivered us from our foes." Within each heart stirred the profound truth that their God was faithful and true, a refuge in times of trouble, yet in these moments of elation, Deborah and Gideon knew that the journey of faith was only beginning. For a people so recently freed must learn to walk in the ways of the Lord, to uphold His commandments, and to live in the light of His guidance. The warmth of victory was sweet, but the shadows of complacency lay within reach, ready to ensnare the unwary. Deborah, filled with divine wisdom, called upon the people, "O Israel, remember He who has brought you through the storms shall guide us still. Your faith must not falter, for challenges remain. The heart of the land is restored, yet watch for the spirits that seek to return and destroy what God has established." The assembly fell silent, reflecting on her words, realizing that their deliverance was not the end of their trials, but the beginning of a new covenant with their God. "What shall we do, judge and prophetess?" the people asked earnestly. "Prepare yourselves," she proclaimed with boldness. "For should we walk humbly, persist in prayer, and guard our hearts, His grace shall preserve us. Let every tribe renew their vows before the Lord, for His mercy is endless, and His promises are sealed in the heavens." Then Gideon stood among them, his spirit aflame with renewed resolve. "Let us gather our families, our clans, and return to our homes. The Lord has triumphed, yet we must cultivate our hearts in righteousness and unity. In our obedience lies the path to lasting peace." As the people dispersed, they carried their pledges, a collective commitment ringing in the air, reverberating against the mountains, echoing down the valleys. "As the Lord liveth, we will serve Him. He is our guide and our keeper," they declared, casting aside the chains of old and embracing a covenant of renewal. Yet even as the fervor of their resolve ignited a spirit of worship, Deborah perceived the stirring of unrest on the horizon. News drifted upon the wind from the surrounding nations, whispers of a great oppression rising anew. King Jabin, seeing his forces scattered, sought to regroup, to plunder the newly reborn spirit of Israel. Without delay, Deborah sought the Lord in solemn prayer, her heart aligned with the echoes of ancient promises. As twilight folded the lands into darkness, a voice resounded in her soul, "Fear not, my daughter. I shall raise up leaders among you, and with them, you will reclaim the land and the covenant I made with your fathers." Following God's call, she gathered the elders once more, a sacred assembly convened in the holy purpose of their God. "The Lord has sent forth His warning," she spoke, firm in spirit. "Jabin has not forgotten our defeat, and he stirs to gather his forces again. We must stand vigilant lest we be overtaken. Prepare your hearts and your swords, for the battle is upon us." With fervor, Barak rose from among the crowd. "We have tasted victory, and now we must stand united. Who among you will fight alongside me, to reignite the flame of righteousness in our land?" The men of Israel, invigorated by the prophetic words, came forward, pledging their loyalty to follow Barak into the fray. "We shall not be swayed," they proclaimed, ready to uphold the covenant and confront their enemies. Days passed, and the dark shadows of war enveloped the land. Yet even in the heart of this turmoil, the spirit of faith blossomed among the people. As they gathered together, they raised their voices unto heaven, seeking wisdom, strength, and guidance. In the midst of their preparation, Jael, who had boldly delivered Israel from Sisera, heard the whispers of the Lord. In that quiet moment, she spoke, "I will not sit idly. The God of Israel is with us. If we are to reclaim our destiny, then let us act with courage and faith." With that spirit igniting the hearts of those around her, Jael became a beacon of hope, inspiring the women and families in the valleys to join the prayers rising up for their nation. And so, as the day of battle drew near with an ominous stillness settling upon the land, the hearts of Israel surged with certainty. Unbeknownst to them, the plan of the Most High would soon unveil a powerful revelation, one that would gather the fragmented hearts together, forging unity through the fires of conflict. As Deborah led the people in prayer, a holy silence enveloped them. She wept before the Lord, "O God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, fulfill your promises. For your people are ready to return unto you." And in that sacred moment, a profound peace descended as the Spirit of God covered the assembly and strengthened them for the trials ahead. At that hour, a rumble echoed through the heavens, filled with divine expectation. It was a signal of glory descending upon his chosen, for the faith that had shaped the promises of old would now intertwine with their hearts again. With their spirits fortified, Israel stood ready to embrace the calling, united under Yahweh's banner, prepared for victory in every battle to come. The culmination of faith had birthed a revival within the hearts of his people. And thus, their journey continued, the story of Israel unfolding with every step in covenant faith and obedience. They would rise and reclaim the land, children of the promise, a testament to the faithfulness of the God who had called them forth, and as the sun set on that fateful day, illuminating the horizon, the people sang their praises anew. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, for he shall lead us into all truth and rid us of our oppressors. Now, dear friends, as you ponder the mighty works of the Lord, consider this moment a call to arms for your own journey. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and witness His wonders unfold in your life. A simple like will help spread God's message through the digital realms, bringing hope and truth to those who seek. Comment below your thoughts. How has this story impacted your faith? Share in your reflections as we walk together on this spiritual path. Don't wait even one more second. Share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear about God's mighty hand at work. Let us transform lives together.